Hi everybody, this is Oksana. In this video we're going to be making this rose or flower themed pendant, and it's got little leaves going up the side and the flower on the top. The stone that I'm going to be using is a bloodstone. It's a really dark red with some green, so I thought that would look nice with a flower plant base kind of pendant because it's got like the green of the leaves and then the red of the like a little rose that we're going to be making. So it is nearly 1.5 inches but not quite, and it's about 35 millimeters. And then I'm going to be using 3 base wires. They're 20 gauge square, dead soft copper, and they're about 12.5 inches. So here is the spool of that copper. So 20 gauge square. It doesn't say it on here, but it's dead soft. I get it from riogrande.com. And then the other wire, this one you don't need to cut and measure because I just like to use it off of the spool and then just, you know, cut it when you're done. Makes it a little easier, but it's half round wire. It's 22 gauge. This is the millimeter size of it. Again, from riogrande.com, dead soft copper. So we're gonna start the same way we always do. Well, not always, but most of the time when we're making this kind of framed design. You just wanna take your 3 base wires. I'm just kind of straightening them so they all line up next to each other. Just kind of running it through my fingers there. So I'm finding the middle of them. And once I have the middle, I'm grabbing my half round wire and I'm just wrapping it around. The little end of it I wrap around, and then you don't need to do this for very long, but the little end, you just need to trim it off. And just press it down flat like this. And then if you just had a tiny little end so you didn't get enough wraps and you are working with your wire connected to the spool, because it's half round, what you need to do is guide it with one hand and with the other hand turn the piece like this. You can't just wrap it around and around. It's going to get all twisted up due to the fact that it's half round wire. But then when you're done, same thing, just make sure the end, when you cut it, is on the same side as the other end, so that when you press it down, both of your ends are on the same side. And this is going to be the inside, so you want to point the inside away from you and grab it roughly in the middle here and bend away from you. So we've made a pointy kind of bend, and then the little wire ends are here on the inside and not here on the outside. So now I'm just gonna grab my stone, my teardrop shaped stone. It'll work with an oval as well. If you're doing an oval, you wouldn't need to do this point. You would just bend the wire frame around the oval. So we're just going to shape it. You want to place it down on like a table or a flat surface. And then I'm just holding it in the air so you can see, but I think it is easier if you just put it down on like a flat surface. And we're just bringing this all together. So you're making a frame for your stone, but then you're bringing these together up here so that sometimes they crisscross. You just want to make sure to keep them in the right order, so the, you know, like the front wire stays in the front and the backmost wire stays in the back, and they don't get all crisscrossed. And if they do, just, you know, switch them up so they're correct again. But basically you want to make a frame like this that fits your stone. And before we connect these wires and finish off the frame, what I'm going to do that's a little different for this design is I'm going to take, so if I'm holding it like this, I'm going to take the front leftmost wire and I'm just kind of straightening it with my fingers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the leaves. And here is how I'm going to do that. So I'm taking the wire and I'm bending it into a little loop like this. Here, I'll raise it up a little bit so you can see that it's the frontmost wire there. And then that little loop, what you want to do is you want to squish it with your pliers really tightly like this, so it's like completely squished. And then you want to open it back up. So I'm opening it back up, and then with my pliers I'm kind of holding it there and I am shaping this little leaf. So now we have one leaf. So we're going to keep going with this wire, and now we're going to make a loop. We're going to bend it in the other direction. So now we have a leaf and a little loop, and with this little loop just going to do the same thing. We're just going to squish it and then unsquish it and then open that back up, and now we have two leaves. So I just need to shape this leaf a little better and bring the wire around to the left. So now we have two leaves. So what you can do as you're making the leaves is you can pop the stone into the frame there and just kind of see how it's looking. So sometimes, depending on the size of the stone and how big the leaves are that you've made, you can make another leaf, a third leaf, and sometimes it's a bit of a tight squeeze in there. So I am going to make the third leaf for you, although I think in my case I could have just not done it and just finished the leaves, but I want to squeeze a third one in for you just so you can see. I do like the way it looks with the three. I think I'm just kind of running out of space. So I'm just shaping the little leaf. And this one ended up being kind of smaller size like that. And what you want is you don't want any of your leaves, like if any of them accidentally are like sticking up like this, you want to fix it so it's pointing down towards the stone. And what you want to do now is you just want to take this wire and line it back up with the rest of the wires that are in the frame, because I personally find it easier to finish up the frame when we have 3 wires and 3 wires, so that way they just all kind of like sit nicely on top of each other. But if you are having a difficult time with that, you don't have to do it. You can just leave this wire and just like wrap it, I don't know, around the frame or around something just to connect it and finish it off. But I just find it a little easier to have 3 and 3 here at the top when I get to this next step, which is making the veil. So this is going to be similar as other pendants with this kind of framed design. I'm going to take the half round wire and I'm going to wrap it around the 6 wires. So we got 3 wires on each side, and then I'm going to put it through the middle and I'm gonna pull it towards me and then just trim that wire end off like that. So now we're gonna make the bail. We're gonna take the frontmost 2 wires, so that's the wire here that we connected back with the leaves, as well as this wire on the other side. So one will be short and one will be long, but it should be long enough for your bail. So I'm just gonna keep going with this wire, and I'm gonna wrap it around just those 2 wires. It sometimes helps to move the other wires back a little bit, so you can just get in there with your half round wire, and I'm just gonna wrap and wrap for a little bit. So note, because this wire is connected to the spool, it's not like a little wire end, I am turning the piece with my left hand, and with my right hand I am guiding the wire to make sure it stays the flat side down and the half rounded side up. So once it is tall enough to make the bail, we're just going to trim it so that the wire end is in the back, so it's facing the back. This is the front of the pendant. And we are going to squish that little wire end down, as well as just squishing all of the bail down, just pressing down on that half round wire all the way. Alright, so this is our bail. Don't worry about this little piece, we'll take care of that in a second. So what I'm going to do now is the following. So I'm going to take my backmost wires, I'm going to grab them. So first I've bent them kind of down, then I'm grabbing them with my pliers, I'm putting a little angular bend in them like this, and then I'm just working them down, trying to get them as close as possible there to the other wires, and then I'm just going to trim them off. And then once you trim them off, you just want to squish that a little bit down. Like that. And then these other 2 wires, you want to put them on the side. So this is the right wire, it's going here, the right middle side. You just want to bend it and bend the other one to the other side. So now we just have the bail to bend there. And that's it. So I'm going to take my bail, I'm going to bend it around this really long wire. I'm going to put it through this hole here, and I'm going to keep bending it until we've made our bail shape, and I'm just going to press down on it a little bit. So here on the front we have both of these wires, which you can just kind of bend up, going in and up through, and that's our bail. So we're going to take the longer wire, and I'm just going to push it all the way to the back, and then I'm just going to trim it, but leave myself a little end so I can tuck that in. So here it is on the back. We're just going to take this little end and just going to tuck it inwards to kind of hide it away, but also now the bail is connected. And then this other tiny wire sticking up, it'll get covered up. We just need to trim it short so it's not sticking up anymore. So now we're ready to put our stone in. So you just want to pop your stone into the frame And here on the back, we're gonna take the backmost wire. You might need to kind of raise it up a little so you can grab it with your pliers. But you're just gonna take it and you're gonna bend it like this onto your stone to trap it in from the back. And same with the other one. So on the left side here in the front, we have our leaves. I'm just gonna push them just a little more on the left. And then on the right side, I'm just gonna get in here with my pliers and just kind of curve that in. And I'm actually gonna do that on this side as well, even though there's leaves there, just so it matches. So our stone is now trapped in there, both from the front and from the back. And what we're gonna do now is make the rows on the top. So to make our rows, we're gonna use these two wires, and it helps to use your pliers to get a nice tight bend in them, but I like to just kind of squish them this way so they're just coming towards the front now. And then here on the front, we're gonna have them kind of cross over each other as tightly as you can. You don't want them to be, there we go, have like a big gap under them or anything. So now I'm just gonna point them down a little bit here. I'll zoom in to show you. So like this, it's making like a little X. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna notice one of your wires is on top. So for me, this left wire is on top and this other wire is on the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the wire that's on the bottom and just lift it up a little bit and take the wire that's on top and bring it underneath and just kind of pull it tightly like that. Now I'm just gonna move that so it's towards the middle there. It's kind of hard to get started, but once you get started, it goes much easier. So now I'm gonna take the other wire and I'm gonna bring it underneath. And lift it up a little bit, and now we're gonna take this wire and bring it underneath. So this whole pattern is just the wires taking turns being brought under the other wires. And once you bring it under, it helps to kind of lift it up so you can get in there with the next wire. So bring it under, lift it up a little bit, and then the next wire's turn, bring it under, lift it up a little bit, then it's the next wire's turn, and that's how we make our flower. And you can do this for however long you want. You can, have just a little flower, you can have a really big one. It's up to you. So I'm just gonna keep going, at least until I do this side so it looks nice and even. So now it's starting to look pretty even. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this wire here and I'm just gonna bend it this way towards the bail, and then I'm gonna trim it, but not short, not too short. It's actually quite long. You can see it almost reaches the back of the bail here, and then I'm just gonna take it and push it into the bail so I can grab that little wire end on the other side, and I'm just gonna point that little end towards the front here, and basically I created a loop, and I'm just going to pinch it closed. So now it's connected. And with this next wire, I'm going to put it through the bail also. And so you can do the same thing that I just did with that first wire, or, and it's totally up to you, if you want, you can bring it all the way around and back to the front, how I just did there. And instead of, you know, just tucking it in there and cutting it short, I now left myself this kind of longish piece here, and I'm just going to make a little swirl. So that's up to you if you want a little swirl, or if you want, you know, just the rows and you don't want there to be an additional swirl on top. So I'm just taking my round nose pliers and I'm just making a little swirl. And kind of an additional step here, it depends on if you feel it's necessary, like if your stone maybe feels wobbly, or like this side doesn't feel as secure. It depends. Mine seems fine, but I'm just going to do this step anyway. It's basically connecting these leaves, like if you feel the leaves maybe move around too much, connecting them to this wire here. That's the extra step. So we would put we'd take a little piece of half round wire, a few inches long, and we're going to put it underneath or through the leaf and underneath this middle wire here. And basically, we're just going to wrap these little ends of the wire. So this first one on the right here, I'm going to wrap it around this middle wire a few times, and then I'll trim it off. Just a little extra security if you feel like you need it. So just wrapping that a few times, just trimming that off. And then that little wire end there, if you just tuck it kind of downwards with your pliers, then you press it closed, it'll tuck itself in there. And then on the other side, we have this wire here. We're just going to put it around that bit there. So it looks like this, and if it feels to you, like my stone's fine, but maybe it depends on your thickness. If you're worried about the stone like coming out of this side here, you can either trim and end that wire, or you can wrap it around, just connect it to this back wire here, and that'll kind of close up this little window so the stone would never be able to pop out the side here, because now we have a little wire here holding the edge of it. So I'm just gonna wrap a few times, just like 3 times or something, just enough to know that it's connected, and then we're just gonna trim that off and tuck that away. So we're just gonna tuck that down just like that, and I'll zoom in now to kind of show you everything I did nice and close up. So here's my connection. The leaf is connected to the side wire, and then that is connected here to the back wire. All right, so that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Here is this little rose or flower pendant. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.